Good evening, morning, and good afternoon, wherever you are on this lovely world, and welcome to the CRM conversation. Today, we have the pleasure to have friendly men, like I'm talking about myself as a CRM dinosaur because I'm so long in the business. We have another most knowledgeable and most thrilling chap with us who could be seen aside of his agility, his knowledge, that he is one of the agile serum dinosaurs as well. Welcome, John Taschek.
Just one little
Why?
comment. You know what dinosaurs do not have in common with neither you nor John?
Tell me.
They're extinct.
Where the successes, to put it positively, the Velociraptor was one of the smartest, and in some of the birds which are existing, and not only on Galapagos Islands, it's sad that they could be, by the DNA, that could be the ancestors of the dinosaurs. So what I take from being an agile serum dinosaur, judging for myself, it's teamwork, it's communications, and it is knowledge to be shared. And data, which we have chosen as one of the topics to talk about today, aside of congratulations, John, for Salesforce and your company as one of the prominently named watch list winners from Paul Greenberg, and which were on the Serum Players show. Congratulations on that one. And you were and you were the one who had the pleasure and the honor of taking virtually the award. Congratulations again.
No, thank you. It's as I mentioned to you before, I think I just known those guys so long. I kind of just showed up, and but it is actually an honor to win an award like that from those guys who have been in the industry and defined the industry for a long time.
Especially after that announcement that he worked very hard, very hard to make sure that there's no winner. Looks like he utterly failed.
And welcome, audience, especially Brielle. Happy to have you with us. And it is also a pleasure. The unknown LinkedIn user could be Bob Fagel again. Sometimes we just don't see it on the display. And we are happy to have you with us all. And hope you are staying safe and you are curious what we have prepared. John, it's a pleasure to have you with us and that you could make yourself available as you are a very busy man these days. And one of the points we started is to look into data, as data is most fascinating. Data can help us. And as I place the teaser, the good, the bad, the ugly, the worse, and something like that, I had also in mind the social responsibility Salesforce was taking up and giving to people in tools, toys with the pandemic environment. And that tableau was coming to me in every of the charts from the John Hopkins hospital when they prepared the worldwide view. And I said, wow, that is really cool. And this is another way one can see Salesforce acting in a social responsible role in enabling these things. Yeah. I
agree. And the visualization of data is so important. It just tells a story without you having to find it yourself. It just gives you the story right away. But the data to get in there, as you know, is the toughest part. What are you showing? Is that data going to be good data? Are you visualizing something that's really cool, but it's wrong? There's a lot of murkiness in data that's out there right now.
Yeah. And I would like to give the audience an opportunity, because I had the luck to meet you in 2006 on a Dreamforce, and it was visualization on data. You had, as market intelligence responsible person, and shared some views into your magic prepared Salesforce tool at that time, and what you had created out of this. And I was simply flashed what you could get out of the machine and out of the system, and what you could visualize. And that gave me a clue. Can you share with us a bit about your background in Salesforce and before?
And we'll try to visualize it as you speak.
I'll try to tell a story that's not too elaborate. So I was in the press, and I was the lab director for a magazine called PC Week magazine, and that had become eWeek magazine. And the lab director's responsibility were, you're a member of the editorial board, so you're writing the editorial once a week. I was a columnist, and I could write about whatever I want, which was about enterprise software, not necessarily PC Weeks, PCs, I mean. And then I was a database specialist. And so after databases went from like having like 10 databases in the world to 4,000 databases in the world back to 4, I said, I got to do something else, and started covering CRM. And around this time, I was covering platforms as well. I covered Oracle quite a bit, because they were in databases, and of course, and platform. And I had met Mark Benioff there, but we didn't really connect until he left Oracle and started Salesforce. And flash forward about 2 years or so. The company was about 2 or 3 years old. 2 years old, I guess. And I started running tests on Salesforce, performance tests, without them knowing it, except that I found out later they did know about it, because they found somebody testing the database. And so, long story short, Mark hired me in 2003 to run competitive intelligence, and that became market strategy, which is the same job I have now, just on a bigger scale.
Wow.
Yeah. So when we met in 2006, that was only our third Dreamforce. There must have only been about 5,000 people at that Dreamforce. And
the coding center was still capable to manage.
Exactly. I mean, I love Dreamforce as an event. It's not just a conference. It is an event. And you saw the beginnings of that then. And I think what we were talking about from the market strategy perspective is something, shocking, back then, is that we had something called dashboards, and the dashboards were directly connected into our CRM system, which was not the norm at the time. There was some reports, but not like live dashboards that were
exactly.
So it was kind of amazing that we were into visualization. There were better visualization tools, I'd say, but not directly connected into the system itself, so that the data reflected the reality in real time.
That was the important part, the real-time data, and that was a key differentiator these days. And people which are in photography might recall that there was a Contax RTS real-time system which claimed to have the data in a more accurate and more precise than anybody else. Fascinating, and it logically seemed to have paid off, as a lot of not only sales representatives, but marketing specialists and marketing managers and other entrepreneurs loved to have the data at their hands, most accurate and precise. Now, coming to the general perspective, what in your eyes is good data? What is not so good data? And what is really bad data, John?
Yeah, it's an amazing question. It's beyond a great question, because I don't like saying great question, because that means all the other ones are not so great. But this is a fascinating question. That's a lifelong question as well. And I think about data, and I feel like there are put the human part of that into the system, into what you're thinking. And a lot of people depend on lots of data, and that data could be just as wrong as if you just have a little data. And so what is good data? Well, the more data we have doesn't mean it's better. It could be even more wrong. It's like, my analogy is that when the Palm Pilot or PDAs first came out, they made the disorganized more disorganized faster, right? Because so the same is true with data. Like, it's going to make you wronger faster. And so what is good data? It's the right data. And what is the right data? Well, it has to be kind of like, I feel like there has to be a human element to it that is trusted, and that data should have more weighting than the rest of the data that's out there, because you can't move forward. Data itself is historic, right? You can't move forward in an agile way unless that data is right, and the data has to be right if it's verified by a human in some way. Now you can automate it, and that would be right. That would be correct data as well. And you could use artificial data, and that data could be right as well. So when you say, what is good data? I don't know. I don't know anymore. All I know is that too much data can be worse for you than too little data.
Right. Well, it has to be accurate, obviously, but it also has to be the right thing to be looking at, right? I mean, you can have a stack of figures relating to things that the numbers are absolutely correct, but they're not what you should be concentrating on. So I would say, wouldn't it be accurate and appropriate? Would that be what good data truly is?
Yeah, accurate and appropriate, and with the correct context. So an example of good data is in our system. If a customer is looking at what is being used, like, are more sales accounts being created, or more territories expanded, or like, that data can be extracted, and you can say that company is going to be growing, right? They'll know they're growing. If they're looking at cases, and there's a bunch of cases about a product, and it's all about the same thing, and they'll have a million, cases on the same product, they'll know that something is wrong with that product, right? They'll know that's an accurate data with the correct context. That is good data, but we can't confuse that with other kinds of data. Well, for example, like, should we pursue a certain path in our future? Is the total addressable market for something because it's growing at a certain level? Because people take that graph, and if you could visualize the hockey stick just keep going up, they never think it's going to go down, or if it's going down, they never think it's going to come back up. There's something missing there, and that's that context that I'm talking about.
Yeah, if it comes back down, it will be after I've left the company. So
that's right.
In how far is perception involved there? I mean, let's look at, for example, reviews. Another set of potentially good data, unless they are purchased. Then they are good data for the one who purchased it, as long as the one who delivers them works up to promise. But they are bad data for anybody else. So how can this perception being put into it? Or if all those reviews or cases that I get into my system about my product that are saying, oh, it's a piece of, smelly stuff, not so good. Yeah, I really don't like it, this, that, and whatnot. And the perception of, the internal perception is then it's probably used wrong, or done wrong, or perceived wrong. So where does this come into picture there as well? Does it come into picture as well? Is it relevant?
Sure, yeah. And there used to be a company called Bizarre Voice. Actually, it still may be around, but they kind of had the market on reviews, and they tried really hard to make those reviews accurate and unpaid and things like that. But now there's that human element for reviews is fascinating, because as a guy who used to write reviews, it's fascinating. because if you ask, 10 people, I bet the 10 people would say they'd look at the negative reviews first because they don't trust the positive reviews. And then so what does Amazon do? What does Bizarre Voice have to do? They have to put like a verified purchaser on that. But that doesn't matter because anybody could just go buy, $4 things and say, oh, this is the greatest product of all time. But people tend to go to the negative reviews. But why? There's probably somebody more likely to have some personal agenda with a negative review than with a positive review. More likely, not totally, but more likely, because they had some bad experience. If you look at Yelp or reviews of restaurants, one person could have had a bad experience. They could have just had a bad day, but people will gravitate toward that. Oh, we shouldn't go there because they had a 1-star review, because people feel like negative means authoritative versus positive meaning authoritative. It's a human condition. So I feel like there's a lot of work to do there in verifying, what does this mean to, for a person, especially for a review, a thing, a restaurant, a store. There's more work to do there. And I don't think that we've gotten into the cognitive side of data analysis as much as we should. We've gone much more into the quantitative side. And I think the next step is probably going more into the humanistic parts.
This is an important aspect. And also an important aspect is what we had in the pandemic, as and we're still in it, even that it might get a bit easier or we get used to it, that it is important just taking these voices of the customer and how they liked the experience and how they felt received, and if people were treating them well, and if the goods were how they expected it, is getting so important, especially if you are not able to go outside and what you get delivered is in proper shape and that you can use it. One of my related business contacts in Berlin, for instance, does have a daily delivery of her goods, of their daily groceries. And she said that she had at least 3 months to set up and clear with the owner of the shop what, in her perspective, is a decent quality. Yeah. And these times get trickier. And now just see over these systems which collect the data, and you get some bad marks and you can't work on it. I remember, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, gone broke Spanish restaurant, and the owner and patron said he had just one bad review, and this is like glue sticking with him. And he could have had 10 positive ones, and it still was a bad sign flowing over him. Yeah, a dark cloud. Yeah, a rainy cloud. Not a blue one.
That's right. And we're like that as humans in general. You could hear positive things about you all the time, and if somebody says something negative, I don't know, you dwell on it for some. I don't know. Maybe only I do that, but I dwell on that negative thing more than I would on the 10 positive things.
It is interesting that you say so. My middle son is the one who goes, for instance, before he tries to purchase it from a shop owner he knows, he looks into Amazon and other reviews, and he goes first for the negative ones, then for some positive ones. The extremist negative ones are his lower end to look for. It doesn't go into the grayscale. It's just black or white, and he then makes his choice. Yeah?
Well, which is quite sensible, because nobody ever purchases bad reviews for oneself. Yeah. It might be the competition who does, but That's quite sensible. So it digs into dwelling on the negative ones, right? Most of us are probably doing the same. But that leads to an interesting follow-up one. How to identify that this is fake or bad.
Good.
How to identify, how to present to a visitor of the site. Let's look your I think they are delivered by Salesforce as well, the great COVID statistics that are shown, well, at least across the US, at least here from my county, it's on a Tableau report. So they must have some challenges as well, because positive negative rates depend on testing. Testing depends on the availability of tests and of people going to tests. So is there a way of demonstrating the quality of this data, or any data besides that?
I believe there is. I believe there are ways to do it. I don't think they're employed very much, but I think there are ways to do it. The easiest way is to, of course, to throw out the worst reviews and throw out the best reviews and kind of like look at them. But there's a lot of AI companies. One out of well, for example, we bought Narrative Science, which does the other part, which is it kind of can create a narrative based on the data set. But if you invert that, there's ways of looking at what a review says and extracting out the intent. And I think that's what we're going to be looking for. And I think that would probably be the next step is when we look at that kind of things. We need it not just for reviews too. We need it for knowledge base articles. We need it for cases, just for instant access to legitimate content for conveying more information, because we're in an age of misinformation, disinformation, total lies, that are out there. I feel like that one of the next steps in CRM is to look at quality of data in a narrative form, and making sure that there's common threads, and then using that as the actual data that we're analyzing and looking at, and then separating it out for that. There's a mechanical type of quantitative data, which is, it's mathematical. You don't lie about that stuff. It's hard to lie because it's actually happened, and making sure that data set stays solid. And then the other part, the human part, is analyzed so that we get the right information out of it.
That's a very good one.
Yeah,
Especially,
I'm sorry, Ralph.
No.
It raises another question that we've been, I think, touching on for the past several minutes, but never quite biting into, regarding data, especially where it regards reviews, and that is purchased positive reviews. That beyond just having them to, bulk up your site, ones that are purchased specifically to drown out real reactions from real customers who are really dissatisfied. I'm wondering if there will be a way to be able to parse reviews, I guess with AI, to try and determine, was this generated by a machine? Did this come from a batch of a batch of reviews posted all at once, or is this legitimate? Because that was one of the first things that came up after the review economy blossomed into life, were companies that were offering to cleanse your social media profiles by posting nothing but good stuff, whether it's real or not. And that just dilutes the use.
It's a fascinating topic. It's not really what I cover, but I'm fascinated by it. And as being a reviewer, I agree. And I think of like what I do. And if I go on to a site and there's a product and it has 5,000 reviews, for some reason, that's a more credible review bucket than the ones that have 5 reviews. So you do that on Amazon, they always have 5,000 reviews or 6,000 or more. You go on to BH Photo Video, and there's 5 reviews. But somehow they're also just as legitimate, because it seems like people are taking more time to write the review. But they could be purchased as well. I just don't think they are. And then you go into Best Buy, or any store, any retailer, and it's like, why are all these reviews here? Well, and then there's the reviews about software, and and I think at some point people are not desensitized. They should be. They're not desensitized. They become totally untrusted. The sources are untrusted, so they don't trust any of them at all. And so that's why I think they gravitate toward the more negative ones. But Marshall, I think you're absolutely right. Is they have, if they're identified, the veracity of that data is proven. I think it's much better for everyone. And so it's in the best interest of every retailer and not just retailer, everything, to have some kind of verified data sources. And maybe that's where you go into, blockchain type of things and have reviews on the blockchain, where the source of the review can be not traced to a person, but traced to a legitimate foundation source.
And there's another aspect, because as you explained to us, you became from market intelligence to marketing strategy. You are relying on valid, solid data in your personal analysis, in your team, and to give advice to people which ask you from time to time. And on some occasions, you simply deliver, not being asked, your trends and opinions and views. And I think it is extremely valuable what Salesforce has established on accessible data to everyone and everybody in market research, such as today was published on groceries, a report and how people are going for groceries. It's called a Lebensmittelindex, something like that. I find it very interesting, and I just flipped through it, but I said, hey, cool. Another one, not only that you are checking up what do marketing people worldwide think, work, and need, and what is their pain they have on the neck, and what you try to make easier. You want to make people's life as a decision maker easier with what you help them not only to visualize, but to get their act together, to get their job to be done. I find this very fascinating.
Absolutely, and I've had conversations where it's not totally true. I'm making up a little bit of a story when I tell them this. It's like, I don't rely on any data. It's like, I don't know where the data is coming from. I'm synthesizing it from a lot of different places, and then I have an intuition, and then I say, well, this is my intuition. Let's go find out if the data proves it or not. But I have a feeling it's right. But then I talked to the data scientists, and they said, John, you're doing the opposite of what it is. Data science is, you go analyze the data sets, then you come to the conclusion. I said, well, no, that's not what I do. That's what everyone else does.
and that's absolutely fine, because what is the experience of, I quote myself, the CRM dinosaurs, or people which are knowledgeable and long enough in an industry? They have a taste, a reflection, and a perception, and a certain solid gut feeling on things. And they question some trends by their own perception, but because they have seen it over a time decade. And they say, we should dig into that, not in that, because I think there are some spots which could be very interesting, such as,
No,
The development, yeah.
You just made me think of a story. When I was in the press, I had the honor and privilege of interviewing Hasso Plattner. And I don't know if he created the story, but he's the one who told it to me. So he's the originator and the creator of it. I don't know if it's even a real story, but he called it the Orange Volvo story. The Orange Volvo station wagon story. Yes.
Okay.
So he said, we're so good at supply chain. We're so good at data science. And let me tell you how Orange Volvos came to be. He said it in a different way, of course. But he said, so Volvo had made all these cars, and they made the green ones. These are the station wagons, the V70s, whatever they were back then. And then he said, well, they also made one Orange Volvo, and then made about 100 of them, and then discounted them because no one was buying. Not one person bought the Orange Volvo. So they discounted them so much that for some reason, people started buying them. And then all of a sudden that triggered the supply chain to Volvo to start manufacturing the hell out of Orange Volvos. Yeah. So the reason that we have all these Orange Volvos out today are because they discounted to a level that was, inexpensive. And it's not what actually people wanted. They just wanted the Volvo, and it happened to be orange. it was just like which came first, the orange Volvo or the discount. Yeah, that's kind of a funny thing.
How did Volvo sales go on after that?
Yeah, I guess they continued until I think Ford got involved and. They
continue to flounder. Yeah.
Isn't that always the way?
Funny on a story, one of these 242s station wagons was one in our family, and it was an orange one. And it was not an orange one because it was discounted, but my sister-in-law simply said she liked that color because it's more attractive than white. It can be good seen, and it's not perceived as being aggressive. And so they were always friendly welcome when they drove to the Netherlands, because Oranje is Netherlands, yeah.
Of course, yeah, Dutch orange, Ajax, and Brilliant Orange, the famous book I read anyway. But that was the other side, is that they became so popular that it triggered it, and then they became the more expensive of the Volvos because it became so popular, and then supply and demand. Yeah, so, I know, it was a fascinating story about did Volvo have all that data behind that story before? No, I don't even know if it's a real story, but that's what he was saying. Did they have the data? No, they did not have that data before. The data came after. The intuition came after, and then then there's a whole sequence of things that happened. I think the same things are true now, and I think we can get back to having a little more intuition based on legitimate data sources. I think once we do legitimize data sources and prove that there is veracity to them, data will be trusted again. Salesforce's number one value is trust. It's in our best interest to be the company that does that, and we are going to try really hard to do it. And we need ideas on how to better our products and better our solutions, and also how we go to market with our customers.
So it's important to know our customers. It's important to make it easy to know our customers, right?
Absolutely.
And
I don't know how you do it without knowing that.
Yeah. The perspective I'm a bit chasing is, we all know that story about what we had. We take a computer and we make the prognosis of not so valuable or even dramatic goofed data even faster, and let us run into the wrong direction. So why, for Christ's sake, we haven't yet have a chief data quality officer? We have a C officer for everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the database days, we were so good about getting data into the system and not getting the data out. And then we got so good at it that the data it's just data, and then rows and rows and columns of data. And then we had to have OLAP type things to try to analyze things, and it still couldn't get the data out. And it's just, we can measure so many things, but the actual measurement that we should be looking at is what we get out of it, not what we put into it. And we don't do that. We don't value the knowledge we get out of the data that we have. So if we could measure that better, we'd be better at it.
Is gamification at any end a help, not only in observing that a lot of organizations are very keen to invest into gaming companies, but also the aspect of learning, exercising, and learning from easier handling of software solutions by different unified user interfaces? Could we learn from the gamification part a bit?
Yeah, I think that we're at like stage 0.1 of gamification, which is like we can fake game, like try to make it a little bit fun of getting data into sources that we're going to be trusted later. But I feel like there's an area of biochemistry that we should be pursuing a little more. I have kids. One of them was like born after the iPhone. Well, I guess two of them were born after, but one is totally born in the iPhone generation. And they study the dopamine levels of like what she puts into a system and what she gets out of that system, and of kids, not necessarily her specifically. We don't do that in the enterprise software business. I mean, like, what's the motivation for a salesperson to get really, really great data into a system? It's more of the stick than the carrot. And if we could gamify it in a way that they get something immediately out of it right after they put into it, yeah. But right now, getting a badge here and there, it's not quite there yet. It's just better than it used to be. I think there's a long way to go, and we won't even call it gamification then. We'll call it like real life. Yeah, that you put something in, you want to get value out of it, and it's in a condensed amount of time.
Yeah. I have a figure for you from Dennis, our friend from Beagle Research, Dennis Pambriand. He said from his research why salespeople not always love their CRM. He said for one piece of data they have to put into the system because it is tricky and not so easy, they want at least 10 times stuff out of the system. Yeah? So one has a perception of a ratio. And to make their lives easier, I feel that speech integration, not only to get some stuff out when I'm in a car, for instance, but to get it easy in, and also to get a voice, not a voice analysis in the classical aspect, but I want to listen to what's going on in the social media. I want to have the sentiment analysis, and I want to know before the shit is hitting the fan, to put it plainly, that I have to do something. Yeah.
I think in the future, I mean, like it doesn't have to be science fiction-y future. It just has to be like a more trusted future. Is that, after a call, like even just like right now, if I could, this is like any kind of conversation, there's going to be a conversation that happens and you want to just extract some of the data. There can be a system that actually analyzes to-dos right from this. Like I said a few things like Orange Volvo, Hasso Plattner. I want to go verify what I said because I didn't, I know I probably didn't have that story completely right.
Talking of an orange Volvo, here we had an orange Opel.
So like that's a to-do for me. Like, something can generate these to-dos for me. The same in the sales. Like there's a conversation that happens when they're in a call. Then there's going to be the conversation afterwards, and there's going to be actions, to-dos. They'll get a ton of value out of that if it's in the system and it's reduced down to actionable things. And that's that 10x thing that Dennis is talking about.
That's probably what we are after. Doing less input but getting more output out of it, right?
Yeah.
And there we are, let's say I'm at least curious about Slack-like user interfaces. In how far do they help there? Do they at all?
Oh, yeah.
Or
Oh,
are
yeah.
they just getting the same stuff in a different way?
Yeah. There is a level of gamification, or probably not less gamification than those triggers of happiness that come out, which are, a lot of people say plus 100, plus 100, have a lot of thumbs up, a lot of iconography, I guess, is going on, emojification, but with the slash commands, there is so much that you can do with the integrations that Slack has as a platform to other systems. Like, you can say, hey, just imagine slash analyze, and Tableau pops up and analyzes whatever data set you just shared. Wherever that data is, it could be in a Google Doc, slash analyze spreadsheet or whatever it is. Just that, you get a ton of information from a lot of different sources without having the kind of the difficulty of doing it yourself. Like right now, even today, even with all the software and that, all the technology progress we've made, I still go to multiple sources to get one answer. And it doesn't have to be that way. It can be, a Slack can be that kind of the agile interface. And that's what is the digital HQ. Like, you don't want to go to different places when you're sitting in front of a screen, not in your office. You can't talk to people like ad hoc as you used to yet. Hopefully that will change. But just to have those integrations that Slack, and that's the brilliance of Slack. It's not necessarily the interface, which is fun. It's that integration, the platform behind the scenes that is doing a ton of that work.
Yeah,
I know
the
that
responsibility is on the user to remember that they have that capability. If you've been doing things a certain way for the past 15 or 16 years, going to other sources for that analysis, remembering that you can just type /analyze and bring up the system and get data analysis out of it is, well, you just don't think of it if it's not been with you for a long time.
And Slack has been your second time change in attitude, as the first wave of change have come through your organization when you had Chatter. I know that Peter Steidl, at that time my sponsor and host for getting me to the Dreamforce at that time, he said, "Hey, Ralph, it has completely changed. It's no longer email writing. It's simply that we key in, hey, I need a source, a good quote for that industry. Do we have some customer there?" And bang, 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 he had his answers and he could go forward. It's so efficient. It's so easy. And it's the ease of getting things done is improving. And this is something I honestly like very much.
I agree, and Slack takes that and goes beyond just what's in the Salesforce data set and goes to the Slack data set and hundreds of integrations. And the API for Slack is much easier for developers to develop on and connect, than in the past. And not just because Slack does that, but because the whole world has changed to kind of an API-centric economy that we can do these things. And I mean, one day I want to wake up and say /day or something like that. And it's going to look through the 100 channels I'm on, the 200 DMs that I've received, email. And it's like, here's the 10 things you got to focus on today. Wouldn't that be great?
That would be so marvelous. And just remember these episodes of Star Trek, when they were back in the 70s, there was a starfighter getting the Enterprise flying to a time tunnel, and Scotty was trying to get some data out of that Earth computer, and he said, "Computer, give me that and that data." It's not responding, it's broken. Oh no, it has the keyboard. Oh my God. Yeah. So that was something which came.
Was the quote, not "oh my God." How quaint.
Hello, computer.
It was something I immediately recall when I had the perspective of how speech technology and visualization could help us to do our job more easy, more effective, and with a lot more fun. Yeah. Such as if I go for the aspect of having clean data. And I was consulting a customer where a call center agent had, not lying, 6 screens as he was working in 6 different systems. And it was faster before he gets info out of that to set up a new data set for the customer who's calling him. And afterwards, he didn't care that he had a double entry. Yeah. Because he was measured not by clean data or data integrity. On his scorecard was, you have to have so many calls per hour. Smart
That's
or no
right.
smart?
That's right. And those KPIs, that were originated in the 1920s about efficiency,
Right.
was like be more efficient. In the 40s and 50s, especially the 50s, were efficiency experts, PhDs in efficiency.
Yeah.
Efficiency is not always the answer, right? It doesn't. It can be the right answer, but it doesn't always have to be.
Absolutely. That is the reason why I'm not talking about efficiency, but about effectiveness. It didn't make sense to run high speed against an iceberg like the Titanic did. This was efficient use of the machines. Effective would have been to go around the icebergs.
Right.
So just a little one to remember how easy it can be to distinguish between effective.
They effectively sunk the ship, so it was effective too.
Depending on the goal at the time, yes.
Yeah. And it was efficient. I mean, from the iceberg's point of view, it didn't have to do a damn thing.
Absolutely. And as the one who did the intro, I have to remember my friendly advisors from the private chat that you are on the jump, John, that 5 minutes to the hour you have to leave us, unfortunately, to make it on time for another meeting. And we were grateful that we had the 55 minutes. And so I drive a bit forward in the aspect as we have talked about the gamification. We have talked about more fun. We have talked about a bit easiness. And now it's the time to ask about how easy can Salesforce be?
I think we can be a lot easier. I think also.
I'm great, Janet. I'm grateful for that comment. Trailhead, yeah, right.
Looks like we are not yet over with gamification.
That's right. Well, no, absolutely. I mean, Trailhead is that kind of badging is for learning is great because.
Yeah.
It's because why it's great. Just a personal story. It's like we have a ton of trails. We have trail mixes. We have trails. Yeah. I can learn about our venture capital. I can take a trail on that. I could learn about our philanthropic efforts. I can learn about 1 trillion trees. It's not just learning about how to use Salesforce. However, and there are a lot of people in the Salesforce ecosystem who do need to learn about Salesforce and they want to get the skills. So it's actually reskilling a whole nation on what enterprise software can do, not just Salesforce, enterprise software in general. There are trails on what is CRM, what is SFA, what can it do for you? And the more that we have that, the better I think I feel about our future and like how we're going to, change the world of enterprise software, make it easier. We started off in 1999. It's like, why can't enterprise software be as easy to use as Amazon? Well, Amazon was pretty easy to use then. It's still pretty easy to use. Like it's still, even though it's a lot of complexity to it. But from what we're talking about, we need people to learn what it is that they're doing, trying to accomplish, and then we need to make it easier for them. So how do we do that? We're going to make the interface easier because, it's software. It's really customizable. It can be really easy, or people can reproduce all the forms that they've had over the last 20 years that they've had to fill out and reproduce it in software and have like required fields, checklists, and make it just as difficult as ever. So the software is software. It can be easy or hard, but we want to make it easy, and we also want to make recommendations. So that's where Trailhead also comes in and helps. But there's also a lot of easy parts that we can do inside the company. How easy it is for employees to answer questions for our customers, how easy it is for our employees to learn about our customers. That's part of easy. How our contracts are worded. Are they really long and difficult to understand? Like, is there a lot of fine print? Or we can make
They
those.
work. Yeah.
They, as every enterprise, I mean, it's like if you look at a pharmaceutical commercial, there's like, I have no idea what they're advertising, but I know everything that they do, it's going to kill me, right? That's
you're all the side effects.
right.
It's the entire commercial.
Right. That's all the fine print. Something's got to that could be easier too. Like I think just generally, the reason I came to Salesforce was because I felt software made people feel stupid. I felt I was used to have to train people in software, and they were new to it. And can you imagine trying to explain like WordPerfect for DOS or Lotus 1-2-3, and like it wasn't easy. The most technology a lot of people had at that time was the remote control for a TV or program the VCR, and they couldn't do either. Right?
True.
It's not because they were dumb; it's because technology failed them. And then so Salesforce. That breathed new life into it, into the world for me.
Okay, no, I guess the easiest way to get clean data in a system that then is useful when it comes to using it and to make people happy doing it is have the system work like people work, not make people work like the system works. On which way are we there? Inside and outside Salesforce, of course. So on the general trajectory.
Yeah, I think it's actually like a kind of a mix. The people have to work the way a system works. For that, you need some base level of efficiency there. But the system also has to work like people work, and people work in different ways. Like as I said, I work on intuition. So what do I want? I want tons of data coming at me, tons. I can process a lot, and some people want. I just have to get my day done, and I want to close this deal. I need to know who the new CEO of the company is. It's like, give me that information. It's much more specific. So the system has to work that way too. And those are our goals, is to work the way a person works, and skill the people so that skill the customers and also the end users on like what the expectations are for their software and their interactions with it.
And what can I see or will I buy as Salesforce Easy? What is the difference if I'm a small company?
You've got 1 minute. Tell us.
Go.
Go.
I see your 2.5 minutes. Okay, so
that was a minute ago.
So if I just keep on doing this, I won't have to answer the question. Is that what I'm
Good idea. Stall.
No. So we've offered things like Salesforce Essentials, and what you'll see is combinations like that of easier to use solutions targeted at small business, but also throughout the whole product offering. Easier to use, easier to do business with. Those are our goals, and that's part of our trust value. But there's also a whole easy initiative that we're working on.
It's fantastic to look inside what's coming up. Tom, yours?
Not much what's coming up. Well, I can give that statement in order for John to give a final comment. What would you say to that as a as an outgoing statement now, as a closing
Outgoing
statement.
statement.
basically.
Okay. My end of career statement. Oh, so like,
Well, yeah.
Let's not
I
say
don't want to
that.
send you into retirement that
yeah.
fast.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, no, I thank you very much for first of all, Rolf, for being at Dreamforce in 2006, and Marshall, we've worked together for years as well. And Thomas, like, thank you all for having me on this show. It's been
Thanks for being here.
It's been a pleasure. Certainly.
Yeah.
Good to catch up.
My outgoing comment is, push us. Have everyone, analysts, everyone should be pushing us to do better. We want to be better, and we want the direction of how to get there, and we listen. As you know, we listen.
Trust us, we'll do.
Again, John, we look forward on having you again, hopefully. And it's not too long ago that we have to wait for that. Now, we wish you all the best.
Yeah.
Stay safe and healthy, and have a successful meeting.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank you
with
all.
that,
Cheers,
we'll
John.
go backstage as well. Thanks to you and for all the comments we've seen in the audience. And see you next time.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Bye and enjoy your day, John.
You too. Thank you. Enjoy your evenings. Thank you.